Before we get into your video, I just want to do a quick disclaimer. This is not financial advice. This is not medical advice. This is not advice on how to live your life. These are my opinions. All right? Take them all with a grain of salt. Enough of the interruption, and let's get on to your video.
Hey, how's it going? Chris Taylor here with Taylor Talks. I appreciate you coming by and checking out our episode. We're going to get right into it. Today, what we're going to be talking about is power-ups to help with the law of attraction. So, first things first, you're attracting everything all the time. You're attracting what you do like. You're attracting what you don't like. You're attracting it all the time. The thing you have to respect about your own power is you're actually attracting things that you don't like. You actually have the power to attract things that you don't even want to happen. And so the first main set of power-ups I could give you is we got to learn how to stop attracting what we don't like. And how we're going to do that is in this next segment. All right, so first things first, let's kind of set like a preface, or let's set some conditions for what I'm going to be talking about. So let's imagine our ability to manifest what we want in our life is like a power bar, like bing, like a power bar, like in a video game. Now, the problem is most people, when they wake up in the morning, their power bar is just drained down to almost nothing. And the reason it's drained down to almost nothing is because they're preconceived notions about reality. Now, what does that mean? That sounds really out there and loopy. What I mean is, if you have, for instance, preconceived notions about women, you think women are a certain way. Well, guess what? You're so powerful, everything you're going to see and hear is going to be that way. And the reason it's going to be that way isn't because you're right and you just know how reality works. It's because you're creating your own reality. It's because you're making it right. So that's a huge chunk of your power as soon as you wake up out of bed in the morning. Now, it's not just women, it's men. Preconceived notions about men. Preconceived notions about the city you live in. Preconceived notions about the economy. Preconceived notions about yourself and what your own worth is. These preconceived notions are the things we use to construct our reality. And we're constructing our whole reality all the time. So when most people wake up in the morning, their power bar is at like 10%. And they wonder why they can't manifest the things that they want in their life. And so now we're down to the point where we're like, well, how do we deal with our preconceived notions? Well, we've concluded things about life, and these conclusions started when we were really young. All right, so our preconceived notions. Now, I'm going to address a few things. One, our preconceived notions are definitely coming from our adolescence and our childhood. We've started to conclude how the world worked a long, long time ago. And ultimately, if you stick with what you used to believe about the world, and if you're like, oh, well, I've never changed, well, nothing's going to change. You're not going to attract anything new or anything different if you don't address who you've been and what you've chosen in the past. Now, to cut right to the chase, first thing I'm going to say is, hey, every person that ever did you dirty, did you wrong, your parents, your family, your friends, you got to either let it go or forgive them. Now, I'm sure you're about to say, well, they're evil, they did this, they did that, I'm right, I'm justified, I'm the victim, and who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? You're right, okay, they're wrong, who cares? Every day you hold that past, you stay in the past. Every day you hold on to what they did, you're not creating anything new. You're just creating a vicious cycle. Because the universe itself only responds to two emotions, love or hate, or gratitude and fear. Basically the two ends of the spectrum emotionally. So if you hate someone, at some point you probably loved them. Okay? So in reality, what you hate becomes reality, and what you love becomes reality. Now, If you don't address what you hate, let it go, forgive it. I'm not telling you to let them move into your living room. I'm telling you, you got to let it go. You got to forgive. Without it, you're not going to be manifesting much. You're going to be walking around with the 10% power bar all day, okay? Your reality is constructing itself around you when you wake up. Literally, every person you run into, every person you have dealings with, the people who keep screwing you over and over again, or how you always run into a cycle that repeats over and over again, well, that's because you're holding on to the same ideas you had when you were a kid. And unless you face those ideas, even though you're right, even though you were the victim, even though you're justified, long as you hold on to those emotions, even if you're like, oh, I'm over it, but you haven't actually changed your mind about how you feel about people, places, or things, or yourself from the past, you're still holding it. It's still baggage that you're carrying, and it lowers your power bar. So to get beyond me arguing for why you should do this, let's just say you actually start doing this. What's a good way to do this? How do I address things from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and actually know what I'm doing? Well, first thing you want to do is you want to get old school. You want to get a piece of paper out, and you want to actually start to write down how you feel about every important person in your life history. Now, that doesn't mean, hey, you have a beef with your mom, so she's not important. Guess what? She is. She's important. She matters just as much as everybody else, because these are all characters in the movie of your life, or these are all characters in the RPG of your life, right? And every single one of them, you made a choice about who they were. And if that choice gave you power and brought more love into your heart, well, don't worry, that added to your power bar. That's going to help you attract what you want. If you have ill feelings about them, if it's not complete, if more needs to be said, if you're holding a grudge, if you're hurt, if you have post-traumatic stress from it, well, you didn't let it go, and you're literally sacrificing a chunk of your creative power every day to hold that reality, to keep it. All right? So my advice is to not do that. There's also beyond like your parents and then your siblings and then your first teacher in school, your first jobs, your first friends. Beyond that, there's also the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror, right? What do you think about yourself? How many times have you told yourself you weren't shit and then you agreed with it? These things are the things we're looking for. These agreements we make with ourselves. Not with anybody else, the agreements you make with the voice in your own head. Every one of those agreements was like a wish you made on a genie. And that wish requires power, your power. And that's what it's going to manifest. So the best thing to do is to get that paper down and start writing down every agreement that you made in your life that you could think of. It's not going to be easy, but once you start writing, it starts coming. Okay? And you may have to cry it out a few times. I don't know. But what you're going to do is, if you really want to get your power back and actually be able to wield your power to manifest, you've got to rewrite your story. You have to write a new story. All these things you concluded with them, you're going to have to say no more of that and conclude something else. Now, this new thing that you conclude, if it's not more love, more freedom, and more abundance to your life, well, guess what? You're using your power on things you don't like. And you can create as much as you don't like as it's unimaginable. Look around you. Look around people. Look, when you stop at a stoplight, look at the guy on the side. He's manifesting fucking hell for himself. Don't do that to yourself, right? So when you go to actually rewrite the new story, if you really, this is an extra tip. If you really want it to be locked in and you want this to go into your long-term stuff to where you wake up, it just happens, my advice, if there's a person that is surrounding this event that happened that you're trying to rewrite, you need to talk to them. It's the best way. You should apologize for holding that energy all that time on them. Apologize for holding that regret or anger or fear the whole time and say, hey, this changed me and I held it and it was my fault. And then forgive them for who they were being. And that right there locks it in. If you have a bad habit that you're keeping and you've done it since you were 13 years old, well, some people that have been affected by that bad habit in your life, apologize to them and ask them to hold you accountable. Now, I know it can be embarrassing or you get butterflies in your stomach when you go to do it, but guess what? That's going to lock it into reality. The more your brain believes what you're saying, the more you're in control of your manifestation and the more you're using the law of attraction to your best of your ability. Ultimately, I've been doing this for years and working on mine as I go, every preconceived notion that I have that's hurting me. And it's improved my life dramatically and my stability dramatically. I can tell you I'm not done. I'm sure if I ever make it to the end and I actually get rid of every bad idea I've ever had, well, that sounds like the story of like Buddha or Jesus or something like that. Like, we'll know if we get rid of everything because then you'll walk on water. But it's not about the destination so much. It's more about the journey and getting your power back. The main thing is people talk about mantras and affirmations and vision boards and all this stuff. And these things do work. They definitely do. But if there's no power put into them, they don't work fast. They don't work quick. So the more power you could free up to put into that, the faster it's going to work. And ultimately, the biggest resource, the biggest consumer of your power is your past and how you view the world. Any viewpoint that's going to bring you less abundance, that's you manifesting something you don't want. So it's really getting very introspective in doing the work of writing these things down, making phone calls, apologizing to people, and really letting it out. People think the law of attraction just works by you sitting there twiddling your thumbs and having a mantra on, I'm happy for my $1 million. I'm happy for my $1 million. That is not how it works. I also have another video on the law of attraction that talks about what's actually happening when the law of attraction is in action. And that's different than this, but it goes with it. I would say definitely check that out. I think that's all the tips I have for this one. And, try it out for yourself. I don't think I'm right. I just think it's worked for me, okay? But in reality, what do I know anyway? It's up to you to figure out. I appreciate you coming by. I appreciate you checking out this video. Definitely give us some likes and some comments and some shares. We could use all the help we can get. And just remember, be the one. Peace.